we make sure that we remind ourselves that we're not doing it for the money. We know that the money will come eventually, but the gist of it is seriously to make sure that kids understand the premise and our mission. And we want to have them understand and recognize these jobs when they come across them, when they're up in the morning and getting ready for school. Hey, Dad, that's the meteorologist and he's telling us about the weather. You know what I mean? And that's what we want from this.
Hello and welcome to the podcast Homespun Script. I'm your host, Nate Knispel. With me today are Mike and Barbara Gammage, founders of the publishing company Mike Writes for Kids. In addition to publishing books for children, they offer workshops, storytime events, and consultation. The organization's mission focuses on highlighting vital but traditionally unheralded segments of professional life, emphasizing the importance of involving representation for African American children in this regard. The organization has won several awards for its publications and service. Their first book, The Dreamlighters Go To Space, which we'll be discussing today, has been described as an African American version of the Magic School Bus. Mike and Barbara, thank you so much for joining me today. And I gotta say, when Mike and I started emailing each other about doing this episode, I took a look at your website, and ever since I've been excited about talking with you. So I love your mission, love your approach, and it's a pleasure and privilege to talk with both of you today. So thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about yourselves and your organization, Mike Writes for Kids.
Yeah, so my name is Mike. This is my wife, Barbara.
Hi.
We are the tandem behind Mike Writes for Kids brand. And we started off with a mission to just help kids understand about jobs in the community that we don't always talk about. And so from there, we first created a story. And then from there, we created merchandise and other things to kind of help support the actual book itself. And now we're actually in the process of providing services to schools and other type of organizations. We do have workshops, like you mentioned, and other things like that. So essentially, the storyline is based off of just that, teaching kids about the jobs that go underappreciated and underrecognized.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So in terms of the other, like you have a book published, let's talk about that in a moment. But like the story, I looked on your website, you have a storytime event that you did online. Is that like through Zoom?
Yeah. So that was actually, that was through a program called Daddy and Me. And they actually reached out to us to have us do a story time, a virtual story time over Zoom. It was a Zoom program, and we were allowed to. They actually reached out to us early enough to have books shipped to them, and they dispersed the books out to those. Every third Sunday in the month, they host a reading, and they have the author provide their books, so that way they can provide the books to those who sign up. It's completely free. And then that way the kids can actually follow along with the storyline. And so that was a really fun opportunity for us too.
Yeah, I watched the video. It looks like the kids were like super engaged with it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm Gen X, so the idea of like a virtual story time like that struck me as a little bit foreign, but it seemed to work out. I mean, kind of fumbling with this question here. So, I mean, how did you plan that out? You said they contacted you and you basically just read, they followed along and
Yeah, so essentially they are looking to, the program is strictly for fathers and their children. And so, every third Sunday they have a reading for the fathers and their children that sign up. And so I was actually the host, the featured guest author for that.
Cool.
For that episode, I should say. But they have a whole outline of everything. All we did was just provide our book and our actual story time. But every third Sunday, they have someone else on reading, and you either can do an activity with the kids, which we do have activities. So we did that first, so that way they could follow along, or maybe we did it afterwards. Either way, they do activities with the kids to make it interactive. And then, of course, we've got our own set with things. And if you want to know more, definitely go to MikeWritesForKids.com and you'll be able to see how our set goes and how the virtual story time goes.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah, I'm a little bit unfamiliar with children's literature, not having kids of my own. So this is a bit of a change for me here. Most of
Mhm.
the books I've read for the podcast are more geared toward young adult or adult. And
Mhm.
so maybe let's talk. I'm going to be relying on both of you a lot for
Yeah,
Yeah, of
explaining
course.
children's literature and everything behind that. But yeah, let's
Absolutely.
talk a little bit about your first book, The Dreamlighters Go to Space. How
Mhm.
would you describe this to like children of an appropriate age or even parents of such children?
Yeah, so perfect question. What we want to do, piggybacking off of our mission, is introduce kids to those jobs that we don't always talk about. And so, in going to space, we or kids always want to be an astronaut, right? We always talk about
Hmm.
just being an astronaut, but we don't recognize that there are other important jobs that work hand in hand with that. And so, in that, we did some research, and we actually found that meteorologists and engineers also work at the launch site. And so those
Hmm.
were jobs that we wanted to make sure we highlighted in this storyline. And so piggybacking off of that, this is the first book of a series. And so we will be going next into a fire station. And so we'll talk
Hmm.
more about that obviously later. But, we're going to take that same concept and introduce kids to the jobs that go hand in hand in the fire industry as well. And so that's
Hmm.
the gist of what the book is about. We actually have a genie as the lead character, and the other two main characters are our children. We did change their names, but they are
Hmm.
based off of our children. We use them as character references, and they're basically talking about going to space one night, and they have a nightlight which we call the Dreamlight, and the genie comes out of that nightlight and shows them the process that goes with getting into space. Of course, the
Hmm.
kids are very eager to get there, but he lets them know that, hey, pump the brakes. It's going to take some time. And I want you to actually understand the process and everybody that goes hand in hand with it. And so that's the
Yeah.
gist of the storyline. Obviously, there's more to it, but that's basically it.
Hmm. Yeah, I read the book, and thankfully, I'm a fast enough reader that I could read a children's book in probably like half an hour or so.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's good too.
Right.
That was one of the things we want to make sure, like, we don't oversaturate it for
Right.
kids because kids only have a shorter attention span.
Right. So you
So
got
yeah.
to capture it when you
yeah,
can.
right.
So keep
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, you'd probably lose their attention if you went into stuff like all the math and the coding that goes
Right.
into.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But even like using it, like the meteorologists, I think they were using computers to, or using technology at the very least to diagnose weather patterns and decide when a good time for the ship was to launch off. And so,
Exactly.
I mean, I can see that as being quite accessible to kids as well. Like, oh, I can use
Yeah.
a computer for all this other cool stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Because important weather is an important concept, and so the meteorologist is actually very important as well because
Right.
they let
Yeah.
us know about the weather. So
Hmm.
we always blame them when they don't know the
Yeah.
weather being right, but
Hmm.
they deserve a lot of credit as
Right.
well.
Yeah, it's all the meteorologist's fault when the weather didn't work out, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the engineering part too, because it looked to me as though you kept it pretty straightforward. I mean, you weren't
Yeah.
going into like the math or anything like that, and what
Right.
I mean, I would consider maybe boring parts, but even me. But
Exactly. We didn't
I
want to go
mean,
in their heads though, for sure.
yeah, but they're putting things together. It's like a puzzle they have to solve.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Hmm. Cool. And then eventually they do get to the moon, and yeah, pick up some rocks and do some cool stuff there, and then head back.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. So, how did you go about crafting the book, or what was your motivation? Did the whole organization come out of like, okay, I want to write this book, and it blossomed from there, or was it more, oh, hey, we need to have more representation, especially for African American kids in these unheralded fields, and the book is the best way to do that. So, just maybe talk about a little bit about the genesis of this whole project.
Yeah. So that's a good question. Actually, the genesis actually came from nowhere. Like it just, I tell everyone, God kind of laid the idea on my heart. I think
Mm-hmm.
now looking back, it kind of spoke from my actual life because I'm a dental assistant by trade. And
Mm-hmm.
so typically when you go to the dentist, you see someone like me, you automatically assume that I'm the doctor. But in learning, that there are actual levels, even in dentistry. There's the doctor, there's the hygienist who cleans the teeth, and then there's the assistants. And so um,
Mm-hmm.
in that, I think that's where the origin of the story kind of came from. And so I took that and we just kind of crafted it to make it fun. We wanted to make sure it was imaginative enough, interactive enough for children to where it's, a fun story, but then we still wanted to get that point across. So from there, did some research on the actual space travel process, what it takes. And then from there, looked up some of the jobs that go hand in hand with it as well. And then we were able to kind of craft the story. I came up with the story first, and then I brought it to my wife, and she was like, okay, this sounds really good. And so from there, we actually, I looked around for how I wanted to publish the book. And so basically what that means is that you can either self-publish or you can traditionally publish. And I didn't understand the full process at the time. And so doing some research, calling around, finding different companies and things, trying to figure out which way I wanted to go. Basically, long story short, we took the self-publishing route. And then after doing that, we found that the only thing was missing was the funding. And so we actually started a Kickstarter a Kickstarter campaign. Are you familiar with Kickstarter?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, Kickstarter is really, really, really good. We actually opened up the campaign. In full disclosure, Kickstarter is something like GoFundMe, except if you don't make the money in the allowed time, then you don't get any of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
it
goes into a
little
whole
more stake there.
Yeah,
You gotta really put yourself out there, know what you're doing. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And so with that, the money goes into a holding space when someone pledges. And then we set it for 30 days. So at the end of the 30 days, if you make your goal, you get the money. And so we ended up, by the grace of God, funding in the 2 weeks. 2 weeks out of that month, and then by the time the month was over, we had about $1,200 over goal. So we made that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we were able to go from there, take that money, and then build the business off of the book, and that's where Mike Writes for Kids came from. We actually are proud to say that we have recently filed for trademarking Mike Writes for Kids as
That's awesome. Yeah,
as an official publishing house, as well as the series itself, the Dreamlighter series. Is going to, it's actually not going to be the Dreamlighter series. It's going to be known as the Little Careers Universe. Yes. And that has been filed for a trademark as well. So anything Dreamlighter will be up under that under the umbrella. And so from there, that's where Mike Writes for Kids came from. And then we'll talk more about like marketing and evolution and where we're going now from there.
Okay. Yeah. We can address that a little bit later. But sure. So you did all the writing in terms of the text, and did you do you did all the art yourself, or did you outsource the art?
No, I outsourced it for sure.
Okay,
I outsourced it. We have an illustrator. Her name is Ashika Sharma, and so she's phenomenal. She was award-winning prior to us getting together, and obviously, as you can see in the illustration, she did a phenomenal job. And so we gave her references and things, how we wanted things to look. The genie, how his outfit is, I drew that up personally. Obviously, the kids, going back to what we were saying earlier, the kids are the references. Our kids are the references for the main character kids. And then she came up with all the other things.
Very cool. So, follow-up question here. I already stated I know very little about the process and strategy involved in children's literature. And so I think I already asked this question. Sorry. See, this is why I do editing, because I already asked this question. I already addressed that one. All right, One of my next questions was going to be, have you copyrighted the Dreamlighter?
Yes.
But
it's copywritten and trademark. We took that process. That was pretty cool too. Just knowing the ins and outs of that background. I have a little bit of a law background coming to this. I was a paralegal, at one point, in front desk at that point.
You're both multi-talented individuals. Holy cow! Well positioned to do something like this. That's awesome. So you have another book coming out. The Dreamlighters Put Out a Fire. What can we expect here?
So and I'm going to let my wife take the floor. She's the author of this book, so I'll let her explain a little bit more on that.
So it came about. just off of my own experience. When I was 16, I actually worked I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. So I worked with the fire commissioner at 16. I was the administrative assistant to him and in City Hall. So that kind of came about there. We were talking about the next series, and he was like, okay, we're going to get to, put out a fire. And we just was going through different experiences and was like, okay, well, how are we going to take this avenue? Are we going to go and outsource and go to fire stations, talk to, those top people, or, and go from there. And I actually remember, and I was like, hey, I actually worked for, the commissioner. So I was like, he said, well, you know what? You take the floor for this one. Let me be the actual just publisher, publicist. And then we'll, you'll be the author of this one. So I said, okay. So from there, we both collectively have family that is firefighters actively now. So we were getting a lot of information from that. We also spoke to the fire chief here in Greensboro as well to get a little bit of insight. And taking, like you said, taking that same information that we kind of have an avenue from Go to Space and now put on the fire. So it's going to be amazing.
Okay, cool. So what are the ancillary roles that you highlight in the next book?
So we touch on dispatcher, we touch on inspectors, chiefs, just the different levels, just the drivers, the engineers. There's also, people don't know, there's, fire driver, engineer. So it's different levels, different roles they each take, and just how they all come together again for the children to, piece it back together, but also get that literacy, but also get them fundamentals as well.
Yeah, totally. So when can we expect that book out?
We don't have
Maybe go on to the next question on that. I know how that goes, man.
No, it's all good. It's all good. This is good because it still leads people to want, it's like a trailer. We don't have an official date set yet. We're actually in the process. The book is in production right now. The illustrations are being colored. And so we wanted to take a slower approach this time, a little bit more for sure approach this time as well, because like we were explaining earlier, last year we did Kickstarter. And so with Kickstarter, we had a date. And we actually had set a date for a release, because for those who pledged, they were able to, if you pledged $10 or if you pledged $25, you got either a book and some other things with it. Like we did stickers, glow in the dark stickers and all that last year. So this year we want to make sure that we actually have books available before we open the pre-order process. And so, we're looking closer until the fourth quarter of the year. We'll probably open up the pre-order process, and then we'll go from there, and then maybe have the actual book available and published by the end of the year.
Yeah. I imagine that takes a little bit more time with a children's book, just because there's so many illustrations in there.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you have to go back and forth with the illustrator. You want to make sure things are perfect, right? You want to make sure that you're paying attention to every eye, every ear, every finger combination and things like that, especially nowadays with the use of AI and things like that. Not that you use a whole lot of it, but it can help, but it can also hurt as well, because AI doesn't capture those genuine, genuine interactions, like how fingers interact with each other, how people interact with each other like that. It's unable to translate that completely. So there's just some of those things that we want to make sure that we have perfect before we put it out there.
Yeah, that's actually a big problem in children's books with AI. There are a lot of nefarious individuals out there who will do just a few prompts and then make a really bad coloring book that have dinosaurs or animals that are anatomically completely off base.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So what happens there is they sell them for very little, and the institutions that buy them are the ones that don't have a whole lot of funding, and so the kids who get access to those get these really strange ideas about what the anatomy of a dinosaur or a deer looks like.
It's definitely a bad butterfly effect for sure.
Yeah, but it's becoming a real problem having that stuff unregulated. But it can be used as a really good tool. I've had several people on who have used it in the same way you have. We'll get an idea here and then we'll detail it and fill in the blanks.
Right. Because you don't want to take the human out of it. You don't want to take that out of there. You always want to keep it fundamentally correct. You know what I mean? Like you want to always make sure that you can fact check your stuff and be able to go back and be like, okay, this is a real reference to why you got to this point A to B, B to A, type thing.
Right. That's an awesome analogy, like a visual fact checking. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. That's cool. All right. So we've briefly touched on where you see your organization going in the near future. Where do you see yourselves, where do you see this organization going in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah,
everywhere.
I see you got a whole bunch of merch on the website.
Right. That was it. Yeah. That was a good answer right
there. But it seems that you got a lot of feelers out there, which is awesome.
Yeah, seriously. And so, to be more specific, we do want it to be over the next 5 to 10 years everywhere. We want it to at least be transitioning. We want to have, first of all, the series either completed or majority of it completed. So from putting out a fire, we'll be going into we'll go to a police station next. And then we'll go from there to other avenues and other
just to give
other industries. But so we want to have in the next 10 years, we want to have the series either completed or almost completed, and then working on syndicating it into the next field, whether it's into actual television or into gaming. We also want to get into virtual reality gaming as well. So that way, when they're actually experiencing the story, they can have an interactive experience with it, and actually go through the simulations as if they were in those, say for going to space, as if they were in the launch site. Actually have that, how you were saying it is interactive, where you have to put the pieces to the puzzle together. So this, we did that intentionally. So that way, when we get to the point where we can transfer the storyline into other avenues, they can use those situations as fun interactive parts,
right? And it also helps with we have a lot of autistic nieces and nephews and things like that. I feel like it will also help with that brain development as well as there, and it's a lot of bright colors with our books that we put out, so we try to also incorporate a lot of that stuff as well, and just focusing on the mental health and different avenues, not just so much of we're just trying to creep in there and catch them early. The brain is fully developed at 5. So we're trying to, catch their little tender minds there and just keep them avenue in a positive way.
Well, the possibilities seem endless to me. And when I read on your website that you're expanding this general idea over multiple children's books, the two things that occurred to me, and I haven't worked with small children, but I have worked with high school kids entering college. And a lot of what they want to do would be things like, well, not entering college, but either what's represented in the media for kids, and what they tend to gravitate toward a lot is people in the sports industry, like being a star on the basketball, football team, or into the entertainment industry. And even in both of those, strength and conditioning trainers, hugely important. Recording engineers, hugely important.
Exactly.
And those are just two I thought of off the top of my head. I'm sure you've thought of quite a few more than that.
Yeah. So what you're saying that currently I work at the front desk in physical therapy. So that's another way. Right. Yes, right. There you go. So, I'm around sports medicine. I'm around these therapists that's actually going to these basketball teams here. Where, like I said, we're in Greensboro, North Carolina. So we're seing all of these, college, big time college basketball leagues and stuff. And a lot of our work conditioning teams, they go out there actually to help the athletes there. So, it's very important to know these levels. Like my husband was saying, there's levels to each thing, and it needs to be a respect there as well as an appreciation. We need our youth to understand this because we need them. It's a need for it. So, and a love that we need to have for it.
Yeah, totally. One other thing that occurred to me is, let's see, I wasn't sure where to input this point or insert. I'm going to try and figure out how to articulate it in a way that I want to. But it reminded me, I think it was maybe 2016, Angela Duckworth published this book called Grit. And the focus was on, it's not so much innate intelligence that has a whole lot to do with success, but just the ability to stick to something and keep at it. And the way that was implemented in the school system was kind of problematic because kids do stick with things. They do well, but they stick with things that they're passionate about and that are accessible and they know about. So they can, if they have access to be quarterback on the football team, they're going to stick with that. But in terms of accessibility and even knowing something is there, what your project does is present that. Present that as a possibility at all different kinds of levels, which is really cool.
I appreciate that comparison.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, what other merch do you have? I mean, I noticed you got some hats. Let's talk about, you offer consultations as well and events. Tell me a little bit about those.
Yeah. Perfect question. So, to answer the merch question first, we do have hats. We have hats available on the website, MikeWritesForKids.com. Also, we do have T-shirts, visors, as well as we actually just opened up our puzzles. We do have puzzles on there as well. What else we got on there, babe?
I mean, it's growing. Soon it'll be, socks. It'll be whatever, supply and demand. Whatever they feel. So we're kind of just moving with our fan base and just seeing what they're wanting and needing to go along with the book and to help them really, follow the fundamentals.
So the biggest piece of merch that everyone likes are the hats and the T-shirts. They love the hats and they love the T-shirts. And so from there, answering the question about consultations and workshops and such. So definitely we are open. We do have a booking page on our website. If you go to MikeWritesForKids.com menu, and we have a booking page, and you can book a 30-minute consultation with us. We can talk to you more about publishing, the process when it comes to specifically publishing children's books. We can also talk to you about Kickstarter as well. We do consultations for Kickstarter. We can help you set up your page, give you some pointers and things like that, point you in the direction of people and all the resources as well. And then also workshops. We do workshops, children's workshops. We also do workshops for adults. If you want to have us come talk to you about publishing a book, to tell you anything that has to do with children's book publishing, marketing, and everything like that. I've just recently taken up a contract for social media marketing. So that's something.
Gosh,
the
combination of your talents never cease to amaze me.
I thank you. I appreciate that. And it's really just and it's just piggybacking off of earlier when we said that everything came from this book. From there, we had people reach out to us and just express how much they enjoy and they appreciate our marketing and what we do and some of the tactics that we do on social media. We haven't even fully gotten into the full gist of digital marketing, where you can transfer things and put advertisements on Google and Amazon and things like that. We haven't really, I'm not going to say had to, but with how we've run our promotions from the beginning, things just took off from the beginning. And so by the grace of God, we've been able to, just kind of live and eat off of social media marketing as a whole. And so, like I said, I do that. We've consultations for all of those things. So definitely reach out to us. We're willing and able to talk to you. For the first 30 minutes, we only ask that you purchase a book, actually. So the only fee for consultation is purchasing the book. You don't necessarily have to have, you don't have to have the book for yourself. You can opt to donate it. We do donate to local libraries and other organizations and things like that. So that's the only fee that we ask for the 30-minute consultation. So reach out to us if you'd like to know more about children's book publishing.
Great. My next question was going to be, how many libraries have you gotten your book into so far? And I guess that's the process, is getting people to donate it. That's seriously. And that's pretty humanitarian too, to not charge for the consultation, just get a book in. I'm really impressed with that.
From the beginning, and this is something that my wife always, we make sure that we remind ourselves that we're not doing it for the money. We know that the money will come eventually, but the gist of it is seriously to make sure that kids understand the premise and our mission, and we want to help them understand and recognize these jobs when they come across them, when they're up in the morning and getting ready for school. Hey, Dad, that's the meteorologist, and he's telling us about the weather. You know what I mean? And that's what we want from this, right? We want to have the kids actually having a career mindset and be career minded. And so from there, just going back to the question, we basically want to make sure that, kids have a full understanding from there. So,
yeah. Awesome. Hey, Mike and Barbara, it's been awesome having you on. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while, and it did not disappoint.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
So best of luck to both of you with the future of your organization. Hey, let me know when the book comes out or when the Firebook comes out. I'll take a look. And I've got the other one on my Kindle right now because physical books are a problem right now because space is an issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, we get it.
That's why we made it available in all those different avenues. Yes. So, and thank you again, Nathan. And this is such a good platform. We definitely will be reaching back out to you. We'd like to come back as well and make this more of a regular thing with us. So,
fantastic.
You keep doing great in your lane as well.
Absolutely. Your family.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I'll put a link to your website and any socials you want in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you so much. At Mike Writes for Kids on everything.
Right, you got it. Okay, thank you both once again, and enjoy the rest of your day. It's been great having you here.
Thank you, you too, man. Have a blessed day.